For most people, they're dieting, they're eating less to lose weight. It's going to be counterintuitive. The more you diet, the less you eat, the more weight you will put on and the most worse you will feel. Your fertility is important even if you don't want kids. Your hormones matter, your cycles really matter. And we're so lucky we have that as women. I can ask you about your cycle and I can tell you so much about your internal health. I think we're like a starving nation, and instead of trying to cleanse, we need to replenish. I've never met someone in my entire practice that truly needed to cleanse.
Wow.
Never. And overweight especially.
I know that parasites, candida, heavy metals, these things that we are told we need to detox our bodies from. And I think so many people listening have probably had the experience where they've even done those cleanses and they don't get better. So it's like, well, then what?
Your body should be removing them daily because we come into contact with them daily. I love Botox and I used to get it like all the time. And then I felt like I was having an aneurysm and I couldn't see or move.
Weird things were happening leading up to when I got the Botox, and then it was just like it spilled over. I had lymphadenopathy all over my body. All my blood work was normal, everything. The lymphadenopathy didn't go away. I became more and more and more exhausted, and I ended up going to the hospital.
The same thing happened to me with Botox too. And the only thing I had done was get Botox that day. I knew it was the Botox, but I just didn't want to give it up. So there's like playing around basically with elements that you can use holistically if you're not doing Botox. Like there's so many.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to dive into everything today, and we thought that a great way to start the episode would be by doing a tongue reading.
Yeah.
So I just have to put it out there. I just came from acupuncture, and I had my tongue reading there, and I have that post acupuncture kind of like days going on. But I would love to get your analysis.
Okay.
And see what you think.
Yeah, like I read the tongue really differently. So the cool thing about me, but the cool thing that makes me different is that I actually have a lot of people I went to school with, colleagues like TCM doctors, who I look at the tongue differently. I think because it's mostly intuitive for me. And so it'll be cool. Like I think it'll be a different read. But yeah, I'm ready when you are. Yeah.
Okay, let's do it. Do you want me to come over there?
Yeah.
Okay. How close do you need me?
Like that's good, I think. Yeah. You have yang deficiency, spleen deficiency, thick white coating, and then you have the cracks in the middle, which is a little bit of stomach-yin deficiency. So do you want me to explain kind of what that means? Okay. So yang deficiency is hormones. And it's kind of like when we're so deficient. So it starts with like your liver being like, hey, I'm tired. Like I need something. And then if you ignore that, it's going to proceed to adrenal fatigue picture, which is like this red, dry tongue. People usually feel good in that picture because they're doing their to-do list. They feel good. They don't want to chill out. And it's like this nervous cortisol energy. They don't know that they're about to burn out. And they like love it. Even your sex drive is high in this cortisol picture. It's called yin deficiency. And when I'm looking at a symptom to, like an intake to see what you have, that's one of the things I'm looking for, excessive sex drive. So you can understand why someone who's doing their to-do list and waking up early and going to the gym and has like a good sex drive, they think that's a good place to be. But unfortunately, it's kind of this cortisol picture. And when you ignore it for long enough, you turn into your tongue, which is like, hey, I'm exhausted and I actually don't have any cortisol left to give you. And now you're this yang deficiency picture, which is the thyroid, which is strange because you're so tiny, but you can see thyroid, I guess, in a variety of bodies. But usually a thyroid would be, thick hips, overweight, constipation, feels cold, unable to lose weight. And that's obviously not what's happening there, but there's definitely a thyroid picture with you. What happens with the thyroid picture is that you're going to have swelling. You see the swelling of your tongue. That's also going to be internal. And so usually that would be bloat, and usually that would be water retention and fungus and parasites. Yeah. You don't look it, which is crazy because like that tongue is exhausted. And then for you, your medicine, you have a little bit of that stomach yin deficiency, which is just irregular eating patterns, overwork, like the thing that everyone kind of tells everyone. And then you have a bit of cold fungus. So for you, I would say no cold foods. Definitely no celery juice. I would chill on even matcha until the tongue improves and looks, I love matcha.
Jackson's looking at me. We were just talking about it.
Yeah, I love matcha and it's amazing for the skin. It lowers DHT, but with a picture of a cold thyroid picture, you really want to focus on warm foods, nutrient-dense foods. And your biggest homework, especially obviously you're an entrepreneur, so it'll be really hard, but is really replenishing your body at an organ level. And acupuncture is amazing because it snaps you into the parasympathetic, which I'm sure, you already know, but that would be really good.
Yeah. So a lot of that resonated with me, and not to make this whole episode about myself, but I'll just be totally honest. I haven't had a period in 6 weeks. I'm not pregnant. I feel like I have 25 pounds of water weight. I know I'm small, but like to the point where I'm like, I can barely like move. Like I feel so heavy and bloated. And there were a few other, and exhausted. I mean, like beyond exhausted. But what you were talking about in the beginning is so funny because for maybe not the last 2 weeks, but before that, I was like, I feel so good. I'm working out, like getting up in the morning, like feeling amazing, super productive. And I was like, wow, like I'm feeling amazing. Like things must have like settled, whatever. And then it was just like the crash and the burn out.
Yeah. And it's like, first of all, like this is why I literally wanted to come on this podcast, is because you're so open and vulnerable and like to, put yourself out there to say that. Cause I feel like we're living in a world where everyone's like, everything's perfect. I have perfect energy. And it's like the realistic part of it is, you're pushing yourself. You're an entrepreneur. You have a busy life. And I think the important part and why I wanted to come on is like, we have to replenish. Like if you're going to put an output of 1,000, where's the replenishment? And I think when we were like in our 20s, well, for me anyways, it's like I could just diet and I'd have glowing skin and like abs. And then all of a sudden you push yourself and you're overworking, or not even overworking, you're just working and you're getting older. And what happens is that we have to replenish for that. And the things that worked when we were in our early 20s, they don't work anymore. And they actually are counterintuitive. So like for most people, they're dieting. I'm not saying you're dieting, but for most people, they're dieting or they're eating less to lose weight if that's what they're after. And then obviously with a hormone, well, not obviously actually, but with a hormone picture, it's going to be counterintuitive. And so the more you diet, the less you eat, the more weight you will put on and the most worse you will feel. For you, I can definitely help if you like, if you let me.
Yeah, we'll talk after.
But I think for you, it's like that. You have to replenish what you're putting out, and looking at your lifestyle and just being like, okay, so how much yin time do I have versus yang? And the yang deficiency. So if you think of yin and yang is obviously masculine. It's go, go, go. It's working out. And then the yin is that creative energy, that, massage, acupuncture, that kind of thing. The cycle thing, that's a big problem, because especially if you plan to have kids, or, your fertility is important even if you don't want kids. Like your fertility matters, your hormones matter, your cycles really matter. They're actually the number one way we can know what's going on in your body. And we're so lucky we have that as women, because men don't have that. But I can ask you about your cycle and I can tell you so much about your internal health. And it's such a vital tool, just like the tongue diagnosis. Yeah, I feel like those tools are like so necessary. So it just shows us how much depletion there is. If your body's like, hey, there's so much depletion, I can't even produce a period. And with infertility, it's like, there's so much depletion. Of course, we're not prioritizing ovulation. Of course, we're not going to give you a baby that needs excess nutrients. We have to preserve your own.
Yeah. And I've been having like all of the PMS things, but just nothing for weeks. So I'm like, oh yeah, there's definitely maybe a more like Western view of that would be like, you're stressed, the reproductive hormones are offline. I feel like that's kind of what we're taught, which is like kind of aligned with what you're saying, where it is like this depletion. So it's just not a priority for your body, right?
Yeah, it's not a priority. And a little bit further, and why I really love TCM, and TCM is just Chinese medicine, is that a yang deficiency, which is this exhausted state that we've gotten over here, it started with a blood deficiency. And when I say blood, I don't just mean iron, I mean like minerals, nutrients, vital source. That's that liver stage being like, hey, and that would be a pale tongue. And then you kind of ignore it, and then you turn to yin deficiency, which again feels good. There's some side effects or some symptoms that you'll notice, like lower back pain, gray hair, like more than usual, dizziness, stuff like that, vertigo. And then that'll progress. So if you take it really back to the root and you're like, okay, well, what is it for me? Because I feel like Western medicine is just like stress, pageant, stress. Yeah. For you, it would be, I feel like mineral deficiency would be first, and then stress. Of course, you can't do anything with a nervous system that's dysregulated. But you're so smart with all that kind of stuff. Like you read everything and I feel like you're doing all those things. And so I think with you intuitively, I feel like it's more of an organ level support you need, where you're targeting those organs and specifically giving them what they need to thrive. Because I feel like you're a gadget person. Like I feel like you probably have a PMF mat or okay, yeah. And so I feel like you already have all like that parasympathetic stuff and you're doing it all. And so I think the missing link would be, just treating that organ specifically. And the cool thing about TCM herbs is that in scientific trials, a lot of them are keeping up with Western medicine. And there's just like so much amazing things for PCOS and fibroids. And when I started learning about this, I was like, why doesn't everyone know this? Like when I learned about it, I was like, it's like a secret that no one knows. And when I used to go to a herbalist and I used to do acupuncture before I learned it, I hated herbs. I almost like, I think they didn't really see the bigger picture with me. I have celiac. So I had like a cold body. And so anytime they'd give me like spleen deficiency, which is insulin resistance, essentially, herbs, I would just feel horrible because they weren't taking into account that I have celiac. And that leads to a leaky gut. So there was more that they needed to account for. And I think that that's why I'm able to make the herbs work better, is because I know about the gut. Like I truly have studied the gut for a lifetime because I have celiac and that's how I started my career. So I feel like the blend of knowing the gut and the information even from everyone you've talked to and all the research you do on your own, plus the herbs, I think would be really beneficial. Yeah.
Yeah. And you've talked about how when you were diagnosed with celiac, you were just trying to treat that. And then you realized that's not going to get you better. And we were kind of talking about this before we started recording, like, what is the actual root cause? And this is something that I've been going through as well, where I feel like I've been playing whack-a-mole, especially with this like MCAS histamine intolerance stuff, where it's like treating that, but it's like, well, what's the root cause of that? Well, then what's the root cause of the root cause? Like you can keep peeling the layers back, right? So do you see that a lot in your practice? Like people come in and, because even with naturopaths, they're like root cause, but you have a totally different approach to it.
Yes. And it's so funny that you brought that up because I've actually had a patient who called me and we did like a consult and she was like, I had this mold and
I've got a huge one.
I got all this mold in this house. And I was like, and she's like, and I'm looking at her tongue and she's got similar to you, a thyroid, exhausted, depleted tongue. And I'm like, okay. And I'm listening because I want to also listen. I don't like the ego part of like, I know what's best. Like I'm going to listen and, because sometimes it is true. Mold exposure, of course, is going to cause a long laundry list of symptoms. But with her specifically, she was like, and then I left the mold and I then entered a new home and there was fresh paint. And then I got fresh paint illness. And that's a thing online too, where it's almost like this danger zone, like buy my program kind of on Instagram, especially with the functional medicine. I hate to like bring something down, but it's like some people are going, and getting a 6-month certification online and then telling people, they have mold toxicity and making them scared of everything and every food. And then now it's fresh paint. And if it wasn't mold,
do this detox.
Do this detox. Oh yeah. Cleanse this. Like they're even telling kids to cleanse and over cleanse for this symptom. So I think we're like a starving nation. And instead of trying to cleanse, we need to replenish. I've never met someone in my entire practice, maybe like a man or two men in the last 10 years that truly needed to cleanse.
Wow.
Never.
Wow.
Yeah, never. And overweight especially truly did not need to cleanse. They needed to replenish. Almost every overweight patient I've had doesn't eat.
Wow.
They don't eat. And if I look at their day, I'm like, you're not eating any meals. Like, and that's, I don't know what came first. Like if it was, that their thyroid wasn't working first and then that's why they weren't eating because they didn't have that metabolic boost, or if they destroyed their thyroid by not eating. But I've never met someone that's like, I eat, regular meals 5 times or 3 times a day. And they were overweight. It's always the people that are barely eating anything and then snacking or grazing or
Okay. Yeah. I want to dive into that more because I think a lot of people listening to this are probably shocked, like, especially with the mold thing. I feel like that's so big, but I know that, you really specialize in like parasites as well, candida, heavy metals, like these things that we are told we need to detox our bodies from. And that has been the approach with some Western medicine, but also with, functional medicine as well. And I think so many people listening have probably had the experience where they've even done those cleanses and they don't get better. So it's like, well, then what? So I would love for you to tell us, like, why is that not the approach that you take? And what damage can it do? Because I know that it can do more harm than good oftentimes.
Yeah. So like, I want to be clear that like there are parasites. And parasites aren't something that, you only get when you travel to Thailand, like as once thought of before. And like, I know Western medicine tests for 5 and, naturopathic medicine tests for 20, let's say. But they're not something that you're just traveling and then catching and you need to like remedy. They're everywhere. And when I started talking about them, it was like people just thought I was crazy. It was like over 10 years ago before they were like a thing on Instagram. And yeah, they're just basically your body should be removing them daily because we come into contact with them daily. And so soil, vegetables, fruit, definitely sushi. Like basically when you're eating sushi, you are literally eating millions of parasites. Definitely tuna, largest fish, largest heavy metal load. You might as well put parasites directly into your body.
Oh God.
I'm going to tell you a gross story after this just to prove my point. And so my question isn't let's remove them. And if you look online, the people like the main big people that are selling these parasite cleanses, they don't look healthy. They don't look like they're not glowing. They're not energetic. They're not thriving in their career. They're just selling you these parasite cleanses.
I think I am thinking of one in
and you're just like, it's not working for you. Like, so for me specifically, I don't take advice from someone that I'm not to be like, you must be like this, but I want it to be working for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I want
what they have.
Yeah. And like, I want you to show me, like, there was another girl that I just saw that like is really high on Instagram. I'm talking like 500,000 followers and all these like comments. And she talks about blood sugar and then she's on a medication for blood sugar. And I'm just like, how is this like, how are people getting away with this? So for one, I feel like you need to really look at where you're getting your information. And I do really value people that have studied extensively their craft. And I used to, not that everyone who's studied their craft should be listened to. I'm not saying, well, they did their doctorate, you should listen to them. That's not what I'm saying. But there is value, trust me, because I've done it, so I know. There's a difference in level of what I knew when I just wrote my boards for acupuncture than to where you write your boards for TCMP, which is like another layer to the doctorate. There is a crazy, like it's almost like timeline jumping where you're like, you knew something then, your whole world changes when you have to be tested on it. And so when you're doing these programs or you're buying a program from someone that maybe learned something online or there's no like regulatory board, so they don't have this scary like board exam to write where they're learning like everything that they possibly could know, they're just going to know their craft so much more. So I don't remember what we were talking about.
Well, I think we were tying it into like people who sell parasite cleanses and detoxes and like why that is not the best approach.
Yeah. So I want everyone basically who's listening to this, it's like, instead of buy my program, it's like, just kind of find somebody who you value what they're saying. It's worked for them. It's worked for their patients. And they do have some sort of like a regulatory board. And they're not, just selling a parasite cleanse, or they're not just, did school for a year. And I think there's a lot of value. Well, I know there's just a lot of value in having that exam and multiple exams. And that's why I do put a lot of value into that education paired with experience. There's also nothing worse than a doctor being like, well, I'm a doctor, so you should listen to me, right? But it's that pair. You need the pair. You need the education because it's really important. Like, I'll see things online where I'm like, that makes sense for them. But when you know TCM as well as functional medicine, you can see why that's not only the answer. Yeah. So I see things online all the time where I hear somebody say what it is. And I'm like, well, yeah, there's a long list that could be parasites, but that's also hormonal imbalance, or that's also blood deficiency. And so the more you know, the more you can diagnose and help people. And yeah, I think that's really important. The body's like, designed to eliminate parasites, and you should definitely focus on a healthy body that is eliminating parasites, but not in the way of like kill everything and you'll be healthy. Because yeah, I've seen so much dangerous stuff happen. I've had clients come to me where they're like, I did a parasite cleanse and like my liver enzymes went off. And because if you're depleted and your liver's off and you put a bunch of toxins in there to push more toxins into the bloodstream, you're just going to feel way worse.
Yeah. And I've seen you say that sometimes when you do these cleanses, they can actually go to your brain. Is that true?
Yeah. So like the whole purpose of fungus and candida is to protect heavy metals from entering your brain. And so the more heavy metals you have, the more tuna, the more, heavy metals, whether you do lashes or you're a nail tech. Hairdressers are my number one client because they're constantly using chemicals. The more chemicals you have, the more candida you have. That's just 100%. And so you can imagine when you're trying to remove something, and the more candida, the more parasites. It's like this swamp-like environment. And then when you're trying to remove that, then yeah, it could rise to the brain, and that's something you don't want. It's kind of like where you feel empty or dizzy. People call it feeling drunk. And for a long time, they pretended that was just part of a candida cleanse. And I'm just like, no, that's heavy metals entering the brain. And so, yeah, it's just, there's a lot of misinformation online, and it's dangerous. Yeah. I'm not saying like, parasite, I don't want to like put fear monger or anything. Like parasite cleanses are dangerous. It's just right person, right method. Ivermectin is like talked a lot about, and I don't want Joe Rogan to come for
Someone
me.
told me to take ivermectin.
Yeah.
Because I was in the hospital for toxo last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Was that from the Botox thing?
No, that was before.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
It was before.
Okay.
That was when it was almost like I had a drippy faucet. This is how I, like, now that I have, a lot of time that's passed and I have a little bit of hindsight, right? I can see how these little weird things were happening leading up to when I got the Botox, and then it was just like it spilled over. So yeah, I mean, I had lymphadenopathy beginning of that year, 2023, all over my body, fatigue, some like GI stuff, just generally not really feeling well. All my blood work was normal, everything. The lymphadenopathy didn't go away. And I became more and more and more exhausted. And I ended up going to the hospital because I like couldn't move my neck. I had stiffness, and I was just like, what is happening? And for some reason, the doctors couldn't get me in to see me. And so somebody was like, just go to Cedars. I knew somebody there. They were like, they'll do everything. They'll work up everything, and then you can just get in and get out. So they did like full body CT, everything. Everything was normal, but infectious disease did like a panel, and I had acute toxoplasmosis, and that was their diagnosis. But they were like, you're young, you're healthy, like your immune system is fine, you'll be fine, you'll get over it. So I didn't treat it or anything. And eventually I, got better. That was the summer. That was like April or May. And then August was the Botox thing.
Okay, that makes sense. The same thing happened to me with Botox too.
No way.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I love Botox. And like,
I do too.
Yeah, and I love the look, and I used to get it like all the time, and then I got pregnant, and so I didn't have it for a really long time, obviously, when I was pregnant, and even before that, because it was like COVID time and stuff, so I wasn't getting it for a while beforehand. And I got it after my firstborn, and I felt like I was having an aneurysm. And I'm an acupuncturist, so like I did kidney 1, which is like the most strongest point you can do to bring yang down. And I was like doing that with my nail on the bottom of my foot, like to try to bring the energy down because I was so scared. And I was at a car rental place, and I like went to the bathroom to do that quickly, and I couldn't see or move. And I was like, oh my God. I'm like, you guys are gonna have to call me an ambulance. And then it was like a rush to the head. And the only thing I had done, and then fine after, and the only thing I had done was get Botox that day.
Whoa.
I know. And it was from everything I see online, because I see a lot of haters like coming for you.
Yeah.
And I see this doctor that's like, it's a non-reputable places. I'm like, no, it was like the best clinic that is where I live. Yeah. And they make a lot of money, and there's no chance that they're cheaping out on Botox. So yeah, after that, I never got it again, and that never came back. Like I even went to go get tests to see if I had an aneurysm because it was so scary. And then I linked the two because I'm like, that was the only thing that happened. And I found an Instagram of like all the symptoms, obviously. Yeah.
How long did it last for you? Did it just go away quickly?
I went to the hospital.
Oh.
Yeah. And they ran tests, gave me like electrolytes and stuff. And then after that, it never happened again. I never got it again. And I knew, like, I'm pretty intuitive. Well, I'm very intuitive. I knew it was the Botox, but I just didn't want to give it up. And then, yeah, I was just like, you have to give it up. I knew that when I was doing it, it wasn't aligned with like anything I believed in anyway. So I was like, you probably shouldn't, but I'm also like, I care about the way I look. So
yeah, it's hard.
I do. Yeah.
It's really, really hard.
Yeah.
I mean, I just had Kayla Barnes on my podcast, the biohacker, and she was really honest about like everything that she does to optimize her body and kind of like upgrade her biology and reduce her toxic load and everything. And it's her job also to do all of these things. And she was very open about that. But then she said like she does a little bit of Xeomin here and there, but she's moving away from it. And the comments, people were like not happy with that. They were like, you can't do one or the other. And I'm like, I understand. Like I have to give people grace, like especially if you're a woman in the public eye, just a woman in general, like it's really hard. And it's hard seeing things change, and like to each their own. But it is crazy to me, like since I've been open about it, how many messages I get and comments and everything from people having these reactions. Like, I don't understand really.
It's stressing me out. Yeah. And it's like, it was fine for so long. And then all of a sudden it seems to just accumulate. And when you were talking about the, like your own issues with like immune system, that's kind of in Chinese medicine, that's what they believe is that a lot of the time it's these biologies where a bacteria will come into the body and then it'll morph or it'll stay or it'll like, if you have that swamp like body, it's going to morph and like do its own thing. And so, yeah. And so that just makes complete sense that Botox, which was fine for a long time, it starts to build up or it stays. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know about what's going on. But intuitively, I was like, it's definitely that. And then, yeah, I have people coming for me, obviously, about other things and they're like, you're speaking about holistic stuff. But it's like, that's okay. I'm allowed to just be who I am, too. And I built my business on just being who I am. Like, I had a lot of people, I used to do I still do a lot of selfies. And a lot of people were like, you need to separate business from your personal life. And I'm like, my business is my personal life. Like, I'm literally living it. I'm not one of those people that's like, eat like this and not living it. Like, this is very much so is my life, and it's changed my life. And, there is a lot of me that does it for the way I look when I eat a certain way, or the herbs, you can really manipulate with herbs, anti-aging, like beauty is estrogen essentially, right? And so, when people become pregnant, how they look glowy and beautiful, like that's estrogen. And so I can manipulate that by like increasing that and getting more curves, which like, it is kind of like in right now and that, beautiful skin. And same thing with candida. It's like candida is not the enemy by any means. Like candida actually gives you like a fuller bum and like, more beautiful estrogen kind of face and feminine face.
Oh, I want some candida.
Yeah. It's just when it like overpopulates that it's like, okay, now it's bad. So you want your body working as like this beautiful ecosystem. You don't want a swamp. And that's where you're like heavy and, yeast infections and obviously the bad candida. But there's actually like that little tiny bit of good estrogen and like good candida that's like, oh, I like the way this looks. It's youthful and it's glowy. And yeah, so there's like playing around basically with elements that you can use holistically if you're not doing Botox. Like there's so many, like sea buckthorn is a big one. Yeah. Yeah. Love sea buckthorn oil. And you can even buy the berries. Those are really good. And silica is like a really good one where you notice right away, like silica gel. And then by nature, a lot of the things that heal our gut and make us healthy make you beautiful. So like, it's so weird, but it's because like excess nutrients is beauty, right? And like when you're super nourished, you will be more beautiful. And I experienced that with myself. It's like sometimes people are like, how do you eat like that all the time? But if I don't, I just look and act like a whole different person. Like I have no energy and my skin is like thin and weird and like, yeah, I'm just like a different person. So I know firsthand like how important it is to put the right nutrients, into your body.
So if somebody comes to you and they're having all of these symptoms of what might typically be attributed to like mold toxicity or parasites or candida or like, I know histamine intolerance, MCAS, that's a big one right now. They're presenting with all of these different symptoms. How do you decide where to start?
Yeah, so I hate tests. I feel like tests are just a way for people to like, spend $1,000 to let you know that you already have a bunch of stuff wrong with you. Like I don't want to give you money to tell me that I have a laundry list of issues. I know that something's off, okay? Like I don't want to spend that $1,000 on that. So the only test that I require for my gut reset is ferritin and hemoglobin. And that's simply because I need to know what your blood's doing. And we obviously need to put you on an iron protocol, which I do differently. Like iron shouldn't be overloaded. You shouldn't take it every day. We have like a 3-day iron protocol where, it's combined with copper and all the other cofactors that you need to absorb iron. And so we have a whole protocol, and that's why I ask for that lab. But otherwise, we're healing the root. So why do we need to know a test? If you're healing the root truly, you don't need a test. Like you should be able to just heal the root. And then after, of course, if you're like, okay, now we've completed this reset, I feel better. Now, sure, test so that you can see where you're at. But the tests vary regularly. Like when I hear about stool tests, I'm like, oh God, next time you go to the bathroom, look into the toilet. You will see that your stool never is the same stool. So how are you testing it? It's going to change every time. Hormone levels test and change dramatically, whether I had, a certain herbal drink or not. My estrogen will be completely different over the next 3 days. So I just feel like we need to remember that when no one's opening you up and looking what's going on inside. I really love TCM for tongue diagnosis. The tongue takes years and years to change. And so it's a really good way to know what's going on in your body as well as your cycle. Like those two are one of the biggest ways to determine what's happening. I have people all the time do my reset. And then after they're like, well, I'm low estrogen. I'm like, yeah, you'd be low estrogen and progesterone because your tongue showed, liver qi stagnation. So it's like, we know this. Like that's why you have all these symptoms. And it's really easy to pair. I think that if more people, educated themselves, there's so much, chat GPT is helpful, like educated themselves a little bit on what it means to have that pattern in their body. I think they'd be like surprised by how much it is true for them. Like Chinese medicine is amazing. It's based on, personal experience. So what they do is they've taken 1,000 people with the same tongue that have the same symptoms, and that's what it's based on. And I just think that's so beautiful because it's like, okay, so this is actually person based. I base my entire manual, which is like my gut reset, on that too. So there's not one part of my manual that I didn't see firsthand experience with a lot of people helping. And a lot of people don't like that because they're like, where's the science? Show me the science. Like, show me the science behind this and this and this. And I'm just like, no, that's my gut. And my gut's not wrong because it's helping X amount of people. And so every single thing on my reset has helped so many different people. I've been doing this for over 10 years. Nothing gets added on there unless I've seen so many people that it's helped. And I think that's really important. Like you don't want someone that's just reading from a textbook and then being like, you have high histamine, eat this and take these 700 supplements. And like, where's the end? Like, what's the end game there? A lot of symptoms overlap with histamine and high histamine and hormonal imbalance, like so many. And so I also had a patient recently who was like, and my histamine problems are back. And I'm like, and which ones are those? I'm just so hot before bed. And I'm like, okay, so that would again be your hormones. And so I think there's just misinformation where, people want to say either mold or histamine. And histamine sensitivity does increase with hormonal imbalance. And so I'm not saying that it's not there. It's obviously there. Otherwise you wouldn't have the symptoms. I'm just saying the root is typically hormonal imbalance versus the actual histamine itself.
Yeah, I've noticed that I've been really good for a couple months. I mean, I'm taking every antihistamine combo there is. But I was feeling really good for the first time in a long time. And I was like able to eat things. But before my period, all bets are off. Like the wheels fall off. And I get super, super sensitive to food and fragrance and temperatures and things like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. And my reset is mostly low histamine anyways. And so what I tell people when they've come from like a histamine background and they're nervous to try foods that aren't low histamine is just to start with like the ones that are okay on the histamine side, which the reset is mainly low histamine. There's like bone broth, lemon, like that would not work. And then by the end of it, they typically can tolerate the histamine. The thing is that, you have to, no one wants to hear this part because it's not fancy and it's not like one like sugar here this is going to fix. But the thing is, you have to look at your life and just be like, okay, like, and no bullshit, like, where can I change? Like, what am I doing in my day that I truly can change? So whether it's like, therapy, and there's a lot of association with parasites and trauma, like people say, I felt it in my gut, or this breakup, like that kind of stuff is stored in your body. And so there has to be an element in every single gut healing protocol where you are definitely going inward and seeing what's still sticking around in your body and sending these kind of toxic messages that can't be ignored. And then the parasympathetic stuff, which we talked about, I feel like you're really good on. But for anyone listening, like you do want to incorporate things that make you feel good, that put you in that yin energy, eat enough food, definitely. But sometimes I feel like with you, it's literally just that your organ needs the nutrients you're not giving it. And you need to fix and support the hormonal imbalance. Also, leaving a bacteria to just let it do what it wants is like, maybe it morphed a little down there,
Right.
So yeah, I feel like that's not really good messaging. I don't know if that was really
like that.
I don't know if it's really helpful to just let it chill in there, but
Yeah.
I think like instead of focusing on the swamp, which is what we do with these like diets and supplements, it's like, well, what got us here? How can we pull towards, better living in that area? A lot of people will be like, well, I need to eat sugar. I need to eat gluten. It's like, okay, well, look into that, because like high vibrational people and, high vibration eats healthy food. So if you're telling me you need it, like that's the same thing as needing coffee or needing wine. And a lot of the time with people, party lifestyle, like I had a party lifestyle and then it switched to obsessed about food. And then it morphs. It just morphs, right? And so if you're that person that's like, well, no, I need my chocolate. It's like, okay, well, just look into that and see why. And then if it's hurting you, like the inflammatory foods, like, then you can peel it back and find out why. Also, like everything changes when you replenish yourself. You can just tolerate more. You can tolerate the unhealthy stuff. But when you're high stress, if you have a huge like work to go thing and, you're so high stress and you're under eating and undernourishing, then yeah, you're going to hit all those symptoms the minute you have something bad.
Yeah, relatable. I can relate. I want to talk about your resets, but I also just have to say that when you walked in here, you smelled so good. And I was like, what is that? And it was your fat melt. Yes. So just tell us about this.
Okay, yeah. So when I was postpartum, I listened to the doctors because it was my first baby and I just wanted to do what was right for the baby. And so I kind of ignored my own holistic intuition and my gut reset and everything. And I gained so much weight. And after postpartum, I was like square. And I was just like, oh my God, like, who is this? And the first few months postpartum, I just was with my baby and, you don't care about the way you look, but it started getting hot out where I live a couple months after. And I put on a bikini totally unaware that I suddenly was in this foreign body. And so intuitively, like with what I do, and I was eating the same foods, like I was still eating gluten-free, dairy-free. So for me, it was just not doing my formulas and stuff during obviously pregnancy and postpartum. And so for me, I was like, intuitively, I know I needed to get circulation to the abdomen. And when I searched online, every single contour cream had so many chemicals, like so many. And as we just talked about with the chemicals causing fungus, it's like, why would I put chemicals right into where I'm trying to remove chemicals? So it just didn't make sense to me. So I made my own melt. And it was an oil at that time with, natural ingredients. And then recently over the years, we cannot keep it in stock. Like people are obsessed with this thing. And so we reformulated it. Well, I reformulated it and it's coming out July 1st.
Gorgeous packaging too.
Thank
you'll
you.
want to have it on your
Yeah.
counter.
Yeah, it's so pretty.
In your purse, wherever.
Yeah. And what's cool is like people really like sage right now, but it has like it's got dragon's blood in it, which is like a natural sage. And so you can imagine what it's doing when you're kind of putting it on your abdomen and, trying to remove all of that stuck energy. We talked about gut issues and trauma and how they're correlated. This is like the best for that because you're stimulating circulation there. You're putting something that's like a sage, into that area to really remove all the negative energy and memories and, everything that's holding you back from being your best version. it works and it smells so good and it heats up right away on your abdomen. So you can think of it as almost like a hot water bottle, or people love those castor oil packs.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, but yeah, you can put it on your abdomen. And I just used it every single day and I have no stretch marks. I got my body back, sounds so vain, but I got my body back from that crazy picture. And I attribute a lot of it to that fat melt. If you want to target something, everything is biohackable. I used it on my hair because I had a lot of hair extension damage, like bald spots, because they look so good, hair extensions. And so, so I used it on my hair and I noticed a huge difference in thickness. But it's mainly, to just bring circulation to the area, and it smells really good. Yeah.
Yeah. Everyone take our word for it, because I can still smell it from here. And I'm like, I got to go home and douse myself in that.
Yeah. I love it. I'm really proud of it because it works and it's one of a kind in that, there's nothing else like that with no chemicals that's bringing circulation to that area. And I just love that it's like sage, because I'm a big sager and energy cleanser. And so for me to have something, after the flight, I was so bloated. And I was trying clothes on for this. And I'm I can't wear anything. It's crazy what a flight does to you.
Yeah.
And waking up early for a flight.
Yeah.
And so
you flew today?
Last night.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I woke up at 4 a.m. for it. And so I was holy.
Yeah.
So I doused myself in it. And the next day, it's not my normal, obviously, because you're still it's only been a day, but I noticed I'd say 80% better.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, this was so fun. I could keep going.
Yeah.
I have to come back for part 2, but tell everybody where they can find you.
Yes. So thegutLabInc.com is the website. And then I just changed my Instagram, but I think it's
we'll add it in show notes.
Okay, yeah, we'll add it to show notes, but yeah, that's where they can find me, is thegutLabInc.com.
Amazing. And your resets are incredible. We didn't really get too deep into them, but you can tell everybody a brief synopsis if you want. Yeah,
basically we're looking at your body individually. I do every single intake because a lot of it is intuitive, and I built it over the last 10 years. So I look at every intake, every tongue. You submit a photo of your tongue, and then I decipher the perfect formulation for you. You go on my gut reset with a group of women, and you're in a group chat during that process. You get a rep during the whole time. You get weekly check-ins with TCM. So you're constantly putting your foods in and whatever you came to glow for. So if you came for skin, you take a photo of your skin. If you came for, weight loss, you take a photo of your abdomen. And then you're doing my manual, which is my life's work. And I tweak it, for your constitution week to week. But yeah, and then it's about 2 months long, each program.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.